Good evening and welcome back to the One Celtic Fans View. There's one thing about Brendan Rodgers, and you could call it a stubbornness. You could call Brendan Rodgers stubborn, you could call him a man that's entirely focused, or you can call him a manager that knows the way that he wants Celtic to play, and he knows that it's the Celtic way, and it's as simple as that. And they're not going to deviate from that. Yes, things got a bit out of hand the first half of the game midweek, but with 18 minutes of a 20-minute press conference devoted for a game that happened midweek, it was a bit of a disappointing interview. The fact that we did get some good news, fantastic news about Alistair Johnston, some fantastic news that Alistair Johnston will be fit for the game. Thankfully, that Alistair Johnston will be fit for. Just reading an email. The fact that Alistair Johnston will be fit for the game this weekend, which is great news. It's unfortunate that Cameron Carter-Vickers is still out injured. And he will be until after the international break. So let's hope that Cameron Carter-Vickers did. But then what does Celtic do for that Aberdeen game? Does Celtic bring Cameron Carter-Vickers back in for the Aberdeen game after the international break? It's a game that we need him and Alistair Johnston 100% fit for. Alistair Johnston is ready to go for this weekend. The manager has confirmed. He said that he had a tightening of his back, so it was more precautionary than anything. And no, they never really asked about the fact that he's not been called up for the international break. Celtic fan media and the Scottish media spent 18 minutes talking about a game during the week. They never asked about Alistair Johnston. They never asked about Liam Shaw leaving the club. They've never asked about the one and only James McCarthy leaving the club. They've never asked these questions. They have the opportunity on an ongoing basis to sit in front of Brendan Rodgers, and they don't ask the questions that Celtic fans want answered. Celtic fans want to know where James McCarthy is. Celtic fans want to hear it from Celtic why Liam Shaw left the club via the back door. Celtic fans want to know, look, why is Alistair Johnston being held back? It's been said by his international manager that he's not fit and that he's recovering from an injury. But Brendan Rodgers is saying he's playing this weekend, which is fine. We all want that, but we want these questions answered. It's as simple as that. And 18 minutes of talking to Brendan Rodgers about the game. About the game at the week, during the week. Do you know, the media spoke to Brendan after the game. Why spend 20 minutes speaking about the Dortmund game? And the way that, Brendan Rodgers has said it. Look, he was asked the question. Brendan was asked the question, how do you feel about the noise coming from outside the club that you should change tactics? I don't listen to it. It's as simple as that. That's what I love about Brendan Rodgers. That's just why I love Brendan Rodgers as Celtic manager, because he doesn't listen to the bullshit. He doesn't listen to the trolls. He doesn't listen to the negativity with one bad result. It's a system that he knows works at Celtic. It's the Celtic way to play entertaining football. If Celtic were to turn around and play five at the back, and I've mentioned it on the evening. I mentioned it after the game and I've mentioned it since then. You know, we see it happen many times at Celtic Park. Teams come and park the bus. There's only one inevitability when you park the bus, is you're going to get beat. Simple. It would never, if we parked the bus, it would never have changed the outcome of the game. It would never have changed the outcome of the game. It would have never have changed it. It's a simple fact. Anyway, you've got to play the Celtic way, says Kaiser. Go on, Brendan Rodgers. Exactly. There's only one Brendan Rodgers, and I'm glad he's a Celtic manager, and I'm glad he's not listening to everyone online saying, I need to change the tactics. He needs to change the tactics. Look, if you went all defensive and then we get beat 7-1, He then gets slated in this 18 minutes, talking about the Dortmund game. 18 minutes. It was a waste of 18 minutes. It was a waste of valuable questions by the Scottish media. Once again, not only the Scottish media, but the Celtic fan base media. The Celtic websites, like this, all these journos that are want to be Celtic, that are Celtic fans, they never ask the right questions. Again, on a weekly basis, they do it. You know, there's a player that's Liam Shaw has just left to go to Fleetwood Town. No one knew that he left the club. He was still when the beginning of the season, he was still part of the Celtic first team lineup. The first game of the season, he was still on the squad list. But he's now joined Fleetwood Town because Celtic have paid up the end of his contract. Nobody's asked the question, where's James McCarthy? And James McCarthy, who's no longer on the squad list, he's nothing to do with Celtic. He's obviously left Celtic. There's no way as James McCarthy's still getting paid. They've obviously paid off his contract. And James McCarthy's sitting drinking pina coladas somewhere. But we never ask the right questions. We decide that let's focus our 18 minutes on where it went wrong. Are you going to listen to the fans? Are you going to change? Are you going to change your tactics? And I'm glad, totally over the moon, overjoyed with the Brendan Rodgers reactions and some of the comments. I mean, the first game, we're playing at a level. He then went on to say, let me just get the... You know, you can't just turn up. You can't turn a tap on. Brendan Rodgers comment. You can't turn a tap on and then turn it off. I think people think that. Look, the 7 goals, when you look at them, 4 of them were absolutely... 2 of them were absolutely unstoppable. You can't do nothing about them. 2 of them were penalties. Before you know it, we're 5-1 down. And that rocked the players. That's going to rock any team. If we'd played 5 at the back, he would have got slated. But anyway, he went on to say that it wasn't the level that we wanted the players to be at. We fell back into a shape, but it wasn't the level that we wanted to be at, and we didn't play the way we wanted to play. He says, we have 15% of the ball, and we could probably lose 3-0. If we'd had only 15% of the ball, you could have went and maybe lost 3-0. It's the Celtic way. Could you imagine sitting in front of Tommy Burns as Celtic fans? Could you imagine sitting in front of Tommy Burns and going, Tommy, go and just play more defensive. Go and play defensive football, Tommy. Tommy would turn around and probably tell you where to go very politely. It's not the Celtic way. I don't want us to do it. I want us, yes, we need to learn, and the players will learn. Brendan Rodgers at the beginning of the 20-minute interview was very subdued and very thoughtful on the way that he was going to answer the questions. And no, he was correct. As far as I'm concerned, he's correct. Why should we change? But it's Brendan Rodgers' exact words. We've been given plaudits. We've been given plaudits since the beginning of the season. We've been given plaudits from everyone since the beginning of the season. You can't just turn that off for one bad game. Do you know? Anyway, let's jump into the comments section and see who's on this live this evening. John Cullen was first in. Wilson QW is in. Joseph Davison's in. Liz Donnelly, Evening Baz, and even everyone. Dave Hislop is in the house. And Stephen McDonald and Jamie Brown. Lorna Gallagher is in the house. Kaiser, the legend. Kaiser, I need to speak to you. I'll message you on X, whatever it's called now. Fucking Twitter. It's always Twitter. John Hutchinson's in the house. Evening Baz, how the devil are you, brother? I'm absolutely fantastic, and I'm glad that Brendan Rodgers did that press conference the way he did. I'm disappointed in the Scottish media, as always. I think as journalists, it's journalism. It's just churning over the same crap on a different day. And I'm disappointed that they have an opportunity on a week-to-week basis to ask questions that Celtic fans are asking. Celtic fans don't want an 18-minute interview of them talking about what may or may not have happened if we'd played a different style or changing the tactics. Do you know, it's gone, it's in the past. But the media, once again, we get here on a Friday, and it's getting to be a Friday thing. You know, and the media, and some of the worst ones are the Celtic media, and it's there's questions that Celtic fans wanted answered today. One, why did Liam Shaw leave the club? When did he leave the club? And why was there no announcement? Where is the hell is James McCarthy? Is he still at the club? No one's asked that. We're 6 games into the season, and no one's asked Brendan Rodgers the question. Brendan, where's James McCarthy? Just out of interest. Nobody's asked it. Nobody's asked it. They keep on asking stupid questions as far as I'm concerned. But I'm not a journalist, I'm a YouTuber. So, and people don't like that. People don't like that. You've got to have a certain narrative as fans sometimes. And you've got to go along with the narrative. And I've never went along with the narrative, and I don't think that anyone should, really. Anyway, Kaiser, I'll hit you up on Messenger. I need to speak to you about a few things. Even if I says John Hutchison, and yeah, I've just told you. Lancaster 82 says Liam Shaw has left our club and joined Fleetwood Town on a year deal. Well, yeah, I know that. And I watched the interview. I watched the interview with Liam Shaw on the Fleetwood Town channel, their website. And he spoke briefly about playing in the Europa for Celtic. He says that it was a memory that will go down with him for a long time, for life, playing in European football with Celtic. He thought he'd done quite well at Celtic, which was interesting. Liam Shaw thought he'd done okay at Celtic. So what went wrong? What went wrong? We don't know, because nobody asked the questions. Nobody asked the questions. And obviously if the player's not good enough, players are going to leave. But we cry out for players to come in through the academy and do their best. And if they're not good enough, move them on. If they're not given a chance, that's why they're not. Anyway. And I think it's more the fact that it's another player that's left the club via the back door. When you look at Bosun Lawwell and everything, I mean, they all got good buys for Celtic. And I just don't like the way that Celtic do that. You can't do this birthday card nonsense crap that Celtic do online sometimes. And everybody goes on about it. It's like, stop putting out birthday card statements on Twitter and stuff and just concentrate on the football. When a player leaves the club, you should acknowledge it. You should acknowledge it. I would have thought. We acknowledge some players leaving, but we don't acknowledge other players leaving. Why? And it's not a question that's ever asked either. Another question that isn't asked. But anyway, as was. I agree with Brendan Rodgers, said Seamus. In theory, but the midfield has to mark their players and to be quicker to the press. The lads played really poor, and that's what was disappointing. But he's admitted that. Brendan Rodgers admitted, if we tried to change anything, we made too many mistakes. He's admitted it. But he's also said that they'll learn from it. You can learn more. See if you keep on winning. You don't learn anything from keeping on winning. You don't. You don't learn anything about your team. You don't. In business, if you keep on winning, if you keep on getting goals and keep on getting gains, you don't learn anything. You learn from your failures, and that's a matter of life. You learn more from your failures than you do your successes. Turning up and winning the league at the end of every year and going through the exact same thing and the same things happening, we don't learn anything. So we go in pre-seasons and then we put players out on loan, and then when the players are out on loan, they're fantastic. Bosun Lawwell, for one, brilliant midfielder. Charlie Adams, he's going to change Celtic in midfield. He's a fantastic player, brilliant. We put him on loan. People are saying that about him. We bring him back in to the fold during pre-season, and he's garbage. Absolute garbage. So you have to learn from your mistakes. And Celtic will learn from the mistakes. Brendan Rodgers will learn from the mistakes. And that's what's good about everything that's going on at Celtic just now. And there's some strange things going on at Celtic. There are some strange things going on at Celtic. But there's also a lot of good. And let's not let that get in the way of a defeat. Although it was a high-scoring defeat, and nobody likes a big scoring defeat like that. But if we had played a 3-5-2 if we played a 4-5-1 and we got beat 3-0, people would be negative about the tactics. People would be negative about the tactics and saying that, he got the wrong tactics. It was a no-win situation. He wasn't going to get carried away with, and many people did get carried away with the excitement. And Brendan Rodgers said, look, I'm not going to listen to people that have never managed in the game, that have never played the game, and most definitely got no tactical acumen to be talking about football in any means or manner. I'm glad that I was playing on the caution side and I thought that a 2-2 draw, I thought a score draw would have been fantastic, because I couldn't see us winning. I just didn't see how we could upper level to ultimately play against a team that got to the Champions League final. We haven't been that good in Europe in the past so many years. So this optimism that come into the game, the team didn't buy it. The manager certainly didn't buy it. He knew it was going to be a hard game. But things that transpired in the game, the 2 penalties, the deflection, you can't account for them. And then he was asked about Austin Trusty, because Austin Trusty is going to be playing up in Dingwall this weekend. Trusty will be playing in Dingwall because Cameron Carter-Vickers has been kept out a bit longer till after the international break, because he needs to rest his big toe, as Desmond on. Talking about the feet again. But Desmond talking about his feet. But Brendan Rodgers did say that Cammy is out, but Cameron Carter-Vickers is out, and he won't make the game this weekend, but he'll be fine for after the international break. Dave's Houselots in the house, Jamie Brown's in the house, Johnson got that dog, and I'm playing ice hockey for his bad back. Jim is in the house saying, even on Kaiser, I blame fan media for noising and worrying about losing their perks. That's why I'm glad I'm a YouTuber, like Kaiser, and not. Remember when they called them soup takers? They better not call them soup takers. A lot of people get offended when I call Celtic fan media things like that. But anyway, I just think that they have the opportunity to ask the questions that fans are asking, and but they've got to toe the party line and stuff. And anyway, because they're hun bastards. Talking about Scottish media, Celtic play the Celtic way, and away we go, says Kaiser. There's only one. Brendan Rodgers says Wilson. Paul Baird says you will get nothing but spin at the end of the day. Yes, exactly. You do get nothing but spin, and I get slated for calling out spin, and I get slated for this, that, and the next thing. But I don't care. I'd rather be authentic, and I'd rather be myself, and I would rather have longevity, like Brendan Rodgers said. You've got to keep on doing the grind on a daily basis. And the fact that this channel has been going for 14 years, and some of the comments that I read sometimes, I'm not going away anywhere. I'll still be here in 14 years' time. I'll still be doing this. Bet some won't say that. I'll still be doing this in 14 years' time. It might not be sitting here. I might be back at games. You never know. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. I might be back at games doing videos. So 14 years of being a fair weather fan. Kaiser, last week was genius. This week is insane. Amazing how close the lines, the parallels are. The only difference is winning or losing. Exactly, Kaiser. Exactly. That's why we're going to get you back on this channel. We need some sense spoken within the Celtic media. I'm not Celtic media. This is a Celtic YouTube channel. It's not Celtic media. Just cut that shit right out. Jason says, we lost to a team that has more quality than we're used to in facing the SPFL. Provides very little preparation for the Champions League. Of course it does. The green trophy count. Exactly. Exactly. We have to have this because we've won. We've won this one 21 times. We've won that 42 times. And this is a friendly reminder that we've won this 54 times. 55s are coming. And we've also, as a Scottish team, won this. And we won this as the very first team from the United Kingdom. Although we don't call ourselves British, we don't call ourselves... But just a friendly reminder to the teams down south that Celtic won it first. And when that changes to 55... that will change to 55. And we were going to make sure that forevermore, people in Scotland know, and people around Europe know, that we're not a diddy team. We're not a diddy team that has no history. And we don't always get things right, but we keep on going. We keep on going. And that's what's good about Celtic. And that's the Celtic way. And Brendan Rodgers sitting today with his calmness, thoughtfulness, thinking about the questions that he was getting asked, and giving a measured response was top class. Absolutely top class. It's not Brendan's fault that the questions that he's getting asked is for 18 minutes is about a game that's not this weekend. But it is what it is. We move on. James Wheat says, if you listen to the fans, you'll be sitting up there with them. Former Super Bowl winning assistant coach buddy Ryan Brendan has got it right. Yep, well said, Baz Kaiser. Lancaster says they get told what to say to Brendan. I don't think they do get told what to say. It's not PMQs. You don't get to put your questions in before, and then the Prime Minister sits down and goes, right, I'll answer that one, I'll answer that one. It's like, can I have that one? Can I have that one? It's not. I don't think it's like that. And if it is, people should just refuse to ask that question and just ask their own one. Even Baz and Truth says Desmond Donnelly, and it's the same reason as to why PSG would never win the Champions League when they had their all-star team about 10 years ago, because they were basically playing diddy teams. Exactly. You have to, at some point in Scottish football, we have to look at what is happening on the ground week in, week out. And until that happens, and everyone knows that watches this channel, I'm a fantastic advocate of changing the status quo to the league. And, you can say, expanding the league will make it worse. I don't think so personally. I think expanding the league and making it less likely for teams to get relegated, less likely for teams to just fight it out, because they know if they stay between 6th and 8th in the league, they'll be fine and they'll not lose too much money. I think it may increase the fan base of teams. I think it may bring people back to the game. I mean, there was people going on my rant the other night about fans from other teams not turning up, but they were saying, well, maybe if one guy said, maybe if people from Inverness started supporting Inverness, and my reply to him was, I don't think there's 10,000 Celtic fans come down from Inverness on a weekly basis to watch Celtic. There's maybe a busload of 53. There's no more than one busload comes down from Inverness, so you're talking about a 53-seater, maybe a 57 if they get really lucky, but there's definitely not 10,000 people. And my point was, when teams then get to Hampden for semi-finals, cup finals, they want to take 15 to 20,000 people. If they get those 15 to 20,000 people to come along to the game, if we can reduce the cost of the game in Scotland, if we get more people coming through the doors, you can look at the game in Germany. I don't know how much the tickets were. They were dirt cheap, the tickets, compared to Spain last year. But the ticket for the football gave you free travel to the ground on public transport. You got the free tram or train or whatever it is to the ground when you had your ticket. That's ingenious. It gets people in, it gets people out quick, but it's ingenious. And there's too much in the UK and Scotland. It's all about ripping off the public, and I understand from a business point of view, you want to make as much money out the customer as possible. But see, sometimes if you reduce the cost of something and make it widely available, you get more people buying it. You can actually make more profit off of more people. But Scottish football doesn't get it like that, and which is, to quote a Tavernier, disappointing. But it's been a fantastic day as far as Celtic are concerned. Desmond says, evening troops. When someone says, judge me on the Champions League, and then we're bad, exactly. Judge me on the Champions League. Brendan will ultimately be judged on his Champions League performance because that's the way that our fan base are. That is the way that our fan base are. They will judge him on the performances. If we still get 12 points in this Champions League and league stage, it will be a fantastic season. When was the last time that we got 12 points? And you're going to say it was a different format. It was this. Well, you're changing the parameters. You can't turn around and say, right, he's going to be judged on the Champions League and he gets 12 points in the Champions League and you're going to go, oh, but it's a different format. Well, you can't make a comparison then, and this is what seems to be wrong with a lot of people. Anyway, we move on. Joseph says, Brendan is the boss, and that's it. Exactly. He is that. And Brendan we trust. We get a lot of comments coming through. Des, well done on your girls. I hope they do amazing. Des and Dolly, I've got 3 granddaughters tonight, and all in hoops, as it's my daughter's doing a sleep out in Glasgow for the underprivileged kids and families. Desmond, I'm glad I've seen that comment. The homelessness in Glasgow and around the UK is something that people that I'm still connected to through Celtic, by the way, even though I'm meant to be a fair weather fan, people that I've known for a lot of years connected through Celtic spent a lot of time and effort trying to raise money and help out the homeless in Glasgow, and I think that it's a fantastic thing for people to do. And we've done it here in Spain. There's expats here in Spain that are homeless. There's Spanish that are homeless, and it's not something. It doesn't have borders. Homelessness, and it's a fantastic thing that your daughter is doing a sleep out in Glasgow tonight for the underprivileged kids and families of Glasgow, and I'm sure you'll have an absolutely fantastic time with your 3 granddaughters. 3 granddaughters. Oh man, I so get where you're coming from. But anyway, that is absolutely fantastic news, Desmond, and you should be really proud of your daughter. I should be really proud of her, and I'm sure you are. I'm sure you are, mate. Heard there's a comedy on at 8 o'clock Sunday night. Yeah, I'm sure we'll all be watching that one. Lorna says, good on your daughter, Desmond. John says, expanding the league lets you try out younger players and bleed them into the team. Exactly, John. And I think that it's needed. It's now needed. If Scotland's got any aspirations to try and bring... And I don't mean this for just Celtic. And I mean this for every single team. If you want to develop youth, look at the way that the Germans done it. The Germans, and even Ange Postecoglou's doing it at Spurs now. Last night in the Europa, he had 3 teenagers starting the game. 3 teenagers starting the game. As much as what Ange wanted to do that at Celtic, there's something went seriously wrong at Celtic. There's something really seriously wrong with the Scottish League. That we can't bring in youth players. We can't, because it's so cutthroat. It's a must-win every game. Celtic can't afford to drop points, and it is what it is. But something definitely needs to change. Anyway, Kaiser says Desmond Donnelly, wow, legend, that's amazing. That's absolutely brilliant. Desmond said, honestly, it deserves all the credit, helping the real struggling families and at ground level. Desmond, is she on Twitter? Ask her if she's on Twitter. Hit me up on Twitter, and if she's raising money through getting some recognition on Twitter, I'll retweet it on Twitter, and I'll get a couple of people who are right into that scene also, that have a way bigger following than me. I mean, Jeanette Finlay and that, I could get them to also give it a little boost. So that's absolutely brilliant. Desmond said, I'm trying to sort out a link, troops. Or if she's on Twitter, just sort that out. Kaiser, Desmond Donnelly, that would be amazing. Baz, I'll jump over it. I said Kaiser. Let me just jump through some more of the comments. The SPFL is too small. Yes, it is. Port Job Express says, I faced being made homeless recently and had my flat repossessed. I'm safe now, but was in a danger of being fucking big still. It's 2024. No one should be homeless in these times. No, they shouldn't. And don't even get me started with the price of rents, because that's a conversation that I could talk about all day long. And it's a conversation that the media in the UK have twisted to be anti-tourist protests in Spain. That's all I'm going to say. Facebook has got the message sorted. Doing the now, troops. Appreciated. Perfect. Anyway, that's that. Right, let's get on to some Celtic news. We spoke about the media conference today. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Brendan was obviously given the accolade of being a successful manager and having a successful start to the season, but then the doom and gloomers came out and over the performance and the manner of the performance. The fact that I think Celtic are going in the right direction. We have been all season. We knew that the Champions League was going to be not a perfect run. And anyone that thought it beforehand, well, it's just absolutely craziest. The fact that Celtic do go up to Dingwall this weekend, stated Brendan Rodgers did say in September, says the performances of the players and the way that the club had been really fantastic. It was exciting. He said we got the pre-season that we wanted, and we want to continue that. It's been a good month, September. October was always going to be a different kettle of fish. Because we started off the month with the League Cup, which was an important game to win to make sure that we got to Hampden. We done that. We had to make sure that we kept maintaining our league form. And there was also the thing of maintaining the 0 goals, which we've done. We got into the Champions League, the first game in the Champions League, which was extraordinary. We scored a fantastic amount of goals, and all it did was help us get off to a good start. Nobody expected the 7-1 drubbing of Dortmund, but nobody, if you really think about it, and nobody expected us to win. And we can say that with a lot of hindsight. I mean, there was fanciful comments and crazy results, and everyone said on the live last night who's going to stick their hand up and admit that they're absolutely garbage at trying to predict Celtic scorelines when it comes to Europe, especially when you're playing big teams. But anyway, Brendan Rodgers sat in the hot seat today, and he said there's still a collective hunger. There's still a collective hunger in this squad, and as difficult a week it's been, and Brendan Rodgers also spoke about the money that fans spend. And Brendan said that, look, we want to win for the fans. We don't want to just win for ourselves. We don't want to just win to prove that we're a good team, that we're good players. We want to win for the fans that, by hook or crook, save up money and put it on credit cards. And I mean, I've seen guys, there was guys that I know from back home, went from Edinburgh to Sweden to Germany, and did that all the way back. Do you know? And that's an epic amount of travelling to do, because the flights were extraordinarily expensive to just fly straight into Dortmund to watch football. You know, you want to try and go and watch your team, and you want to get tickets for it, and they spend a lot of money. So hats off to those folk. I mean, those people are the ones that are standing at the games, and Brendan and the team are walking up to the fans, the away fans, after the game. And the away fans are kept in the ground for half an hour. The away fans are kept in the ground for half an hour after the game, whilst all the home fans get away and get to disperse. And I've been in that away fan situation many times in Europe, when you've got to stay in the ground for half an hour till the police let you out. And, you know, those are the guys who spend their hard-earned money. And it's pretty much, I've not seen any of them having real big digs at Brendan Rodgers or anybody or the team. Don't know. It's always the ones that speak the loudest are the ones that don't spend the cash, and that's always been the case when it comes to Celtic fans. It's always been the case over the last few years. It is what it is. And hats off to all the fans that go to away games, because that's the true fan base. That's the true fan base. And people will say, oh, they shouldn't do this and they shouldn't do that. Well, they're the ones that pay their money. They follow them everywhere. They follow the team everywhere. But anyway, Angelo, how are you? Long time not see. Coming in from Australia. One of the fantastic guys coming in from Australia, Angelo has donated 10 Australian dollars. Don't know what that converts to when the time it comes through Google. and they take their wee cut. But thank you to Angelo. A big shout out to Angelo, who comes in from down under. Lancaster says, I'll say it again, I was close to plenty of goals. I didn't expect to watch it on the hub. Lorna says, I really thought we would win 2-1. See what I know, says Lorna. I think that we were all 100% convinced that we could have done something. The fact that the media in Scotland were saying, oh, they're not playing good, people are saying they're not playing good, but when it comes to the Champions League, there's one thing that you could be sure, that when it comes to the big tournaments, we do it in the Scottish Cup. We've done it in the Scottish Cup. How many times, when was the last time Brendan Rodgers was beaten at Hampden? When it comes to the big games and the big moments, you turn up. And that's what Celtic do on a domestic level. We're just not there yet at the Champions League level. So let's not give this team too much stick. It was a terrible performance by a lot of players, but let's let them learn from their mistakes. Let's let the players collectively... I mean, why was Callum McGregor not doing an interview today? They got Liam Scales to do the interview. Callum McGregor will be hurting no more than anybody. He's now got a 7-1 gubbin and Celtic captain on his CV. Callum McGregor's probably hurting more than anybody. He probably is the grumpiest motherfucker in training the rest of the week. But it is what it is. Why is Halifax? What's his best? Kaiser says 100% correct, Baz. Brendan Rodgers and the players should go to the travelling support. That comment's just jumped away up. And pay homage for their efforts to celebrate or commiserate them. Exactly. And they do it. They do it all the time. They do it in Europe. I can remember Ronnie Dyler coming up to us in Malmo, doing it in Malmo. I mean, that's just one of the games. I've seen it when we were in Rennes in 2019. Do you know, we had to stay back in Rennes also, and that's a fantastic stadium. If you ever get the chance to go to Rennes, that's a fantastic stadium. And what's weird about Rennes is they shut off the road outside the ground, totally off topic, but they've got a road, double-lane road outside the stadium, and they shut it off. And it's a bit like when they have a Spanish fiesta. But they set up these barbecue trucks, and you can get barbecued food and buy beer and get a barbecue and get your barbecued rolling sausage and stuff. It's absolutely mental. It's nuts. Never mind snack vans that cost £6 or £7 for a hamburger that looks as if it came out of Poundland. This is like real good, tasty food. Rennes was a cracking away game. Anyway, Gerald says, no offence, but who can afford to go to Germany for a one game? Meanwhile, Celtic boards are so wealthy. It's a mugs game. It's like playing the lotto. Gerard, there's a lot of Celtic fans that pay thousands of pounds a year to follow Celtic, and I'm not saying that to make numbers up. I know how much I spent over the years. I know how much that I've spent on tickets. I know how much I spent on this and on these Club Celtic Lounge tickets when I had them. And people do spend thousands every year. And now that there's 4 games away in Europe. Do you know that I know guys that will go to every single 4 games, and they're probably going to spend a couple of grand just on travel, and then a couple of grand on drink. Not so much on hotels, because they just go for the cheapest hotels. But anyway, they do. People do it, and they do it all the time, and it's the same people. Do you know, when you've got people going to the European away games, you get to know everyone that goes. It's the majority of the same people that go to away games at home as do in Europe. John Cullen says, let's face it, to a player, they all shat it bad midweek. It was not good enough. But let's put it behind us and move on, says John. I don't think that they shat it. I think that they were maybe in shock after the goalkeeper giving away the penalty, because you're not expecting Schmeichel to give away a penalty. And when that happened, it was like, right, wait a minute, we need a bit of composure. We got that. We get the quick goal. But then our passing at the back was terrible. Our passing at the back was woeful. And that's what then caused the problems. They then get a second quick goal, and then they get another penalty, and then they get another goal. And before you know it, like Brendan Rodgers says, before they even got they could take a breath, They did to us what we do to teams in the SPFL. And it's as simple as that. It's the only way to look at it. And if people think that you're trying to make up excuses, it's not trying to make up excuses. I think that Brendan Rodgers handled himself admirably today and saying that, look, it is what it is and I'm not going to change. I'm not going to change the system. But anyway, the club should be compensating everyone that went to this game. No, they shouldn't, John. Of course they won't. Unless we face quality teams on a regular basis, we'll be unprepared for top teams like Dortmund. And that will happen. It will always happen. You can't go from playing... Listen, Dortmund, if you want to talk about the SPFL, Dortmund played on the Friday evening. So they got the Saturday, Sunday, full days to recover. They got Saturday to recover. They'll be back in the training on the Sunday, and then training the Monday, and then they got the game Tuesday night. A light training session in the morning on the Tuesday. Celtic had to play Saturday evening. Remember, it was a 5:45 kickoff. It was 6:45 here in Europe. So Celtic had to play Saturday evening. They then had to have a rest day on the Sunday, and then travel a slight training session at Celtic Park on the Monday, which was just to keep the fitness of the players. There was no tactical training. It was just basically a warm-up, warm-down, kick-about training session. There was no tactical awareness to the training session. They then had to travel on that day and then play the game on the Tuesday and the Wednesday. Sorry, it is what it is. You have to look at our own league and how they're not helping teams in Europe. You know, they're not helping teams in Europe at all by doing that. But you've got to be in the big league to play these games. It's as simple as that. T-Bone says 4-2-3-1 away from home in Europe. I see where you're coming with that one, but I would rather just go 4-5-1. Just block that midfield. I think if you've got any kind of diamond formation and having the two players sitting in front, this is where the problem was on Thursday. The gap between the defenders in the midfield was too big. We were letting them having a run around at the back. Putting two players in there would be fine, but I think just having five across the midfield and five playing in maybe some kind of four playing in a diamond formation and then the wingers outside just to try and make it a bit more compact, I think that would be better personally. But like Brendan Rodgers says, I'm not a coach and I'm not and thankfully I don't talk too much about tactical awareness or how the team should be playing. I just comment on what everyone else is saying. Stephen Johnston is in the house. Jylan says Celtic are in the Champions League and it's like a boxer with padded a 20-0 record of bums, and then he fights a right dog and gets KO'd in the first round. Like the boxer, our sparring partners are garbage, so we can't grow. What a fantastic! That has got to get some how do I give the love hearts to that? You can't on this. That is a comment and a half. That is an absolutely fantastic comment, Jai Lin. 5 minutes. So 5 minutes. I've got that 5 minute call. Well, I've been on for 43. I wasn't expected to be on as long as this. Jai Lin, spot on, absolutely spot on. Kaiser says, Jai Lin, and now we know the problem. I think of a few solutions. Legends, you will be outsmarting 90% of the fan base. Absolute legends. Baz, stop making excuses. We're pushing Europe. You weren't saying that the first week. Nobody said that the first week, the first Champions League game. Nobody says we were pish. Anyway, a big shout out to Port Shop Express. Big shout out to Kaiser. Baz, it's not about how hard you hit, but it's about how hard you can get the hit and keep on moving forward. Exactly. It's not about going down, and it's about going down and not staying down. It's about getting knocked down and getting back up. And that's what Celtic do. And that's what Brendan Rodgers knows that Celtic do. And for people saying that we need to change this, that, and the next thing, thank goodness Brendan Rodgers is the manager. And thank goodness that Brendan is the man in charge. And Brendan we trust. Anyway, Thank you for everyone that's watched the live tonight. If you're watching the replay, it'll come up as just a normal video. But have a fantastic evening, Celtic fans. I'm going to get my dinner, as you call it, or your tea, or your supper, or whatever it is.